Hi, this is Erica Merrill, and I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a family and real estate law firm in the Worcester area, and her team is fantastic. And we're very, very fortunate to have her with us every week discussing different topics. Today, we're going to be talking about what makes a good client. And I am a client, so I'm hoping that she doesn't say that I'm a bad client, but we're going to find out. Welcome to the show today, Nicole.
Well, we would definitely find out, won't we? The reality is, everybody wants to know, oh yeah, I'm the greatest client. I do everything. I give all this information to my attorney, and really it's like, okay, let's back up. Let me tell you what I think makes a good client, because what you perceive might not actually be the truth.
Well, I do know that documents are a big part of it, and listening to what you say is a big part of it. But you get new people in all the time, and you must have lots and lots of thoughts when you first meet people. So what do attorneys listen to when they're discussing a case for the first time?
They're listening for keywords. Again, how, you'll have somebody and go, oh yeah, Judge so-and-so knows me, and she really doesn't like me, or she really likes the other party, or something like that. And you're going, okay, judges should not really know you. They get lots of people through the doors every day. So again, you're saying, okay, the file's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the bigger it gets, the more likely it is that the judge is going to hate both of you. So those are key things to listen to. It's things that are listening to, which is, what does my file look like? Oh, let me give you this whole stack. You sort through it. Great. I don't really want to sort through it to figure out what's relevant. I want you to tell me what's relevant. There might be other things that are relevant to me, but if you're starting with, here's a stack of garbage, figure it out, it means to me you're going to be spending a lot of money foolishly when you can organize it yourself. And I'll tell you exactly what I need. But if you're going to give it to me like that, I'm going to spend all of your money looking through it, figuring out what I need and what I don't need. And now you've wasted money that you didn't need to. It's, oh, well, I had to get rid of my last attorney, or I had a divorce and I used this attorney, and then I had a modification, I used this attorney, and I had a modification and I did use this attorney, and then I had a contempt and I had this attorney, and we're going, can you take a breath? What happened? And you really want to know, because unless the attorney retired or God forbid died, why are you changing attorneys all the time? So those are things that, again, we're looking at going, what's going on with you that we need to have these issues? So really you want to come in as a well-organized person and say, this is what I think is relevant. I have another stack here. She's happy to take a look at it if she needs it, but these are the things that I think she's going to need for the meeting. In addition, our staff is going to tell you beforehand what we need. So you're going to listen to what our staff tells you. You're going to bring in hopefully those documents. And again, if you want to bring in other stuff, that's great. We always say, and any other documents you think are relevant. But giving us a mixed mash of crap doesn't really help us.
Well, that makes sense. It's almost like you're interviewing them, because in interviewing for a job, you would call that a job hopper. and you don't want to hire a job hopper because you don't know, why they're going from job to job. I mean, hey, there's a lot of bad attorneys out there that don't get back to their clients, or they're just overwhelmed even. Not even that they're bad, but like nowadays you can't find anyone to work for you. So, there might be some kind of a reason, but certainly if they know the judges, that's like knowing the principal in school. It's bad if they know you for anything other than having straight A's. So when you're talking to somebody, like when you're talking to your attorney, how should you tell your attorney about your case? Is there something you'd like to see, or some kind of progression?
I think it depends on what kind of case it is. Obviously, if it's a modification, I'm going to need to know about the previous judgment. I'm also going to need to know what's happened since then. If it's a complaint for divorce, then unfortunately I'm going to know everything in your divorce. So it kind of depends on what type of case you're bringing to me. But I think, to a certain degree, you need to let the attorney be the guide. You are going to tell us things that are completely irrelevant. And I get that you want to get it off your chest, and we will listen to you. But the reality is, again, we want to focus on, this is the information that I need today. This is the reason why I need it. Let us gather our information first. And then if we haven't asked those questions, or if you want to tell us, then you give us the story and say, hey, but I really want you to know about this. Unfortunately, I can't say that we bring up and go, hey, were you ever abused? No, we're not going to bring up that statement to you. Obviously, that's something that we're hopefully is not happening. But two, it's not something that I'm going to try to encourage you to talk about unless you're willing to talk about it. So I think you really have to say, oh, that's important. Like I had a restraining order against my ex once. I let it drop because he said he was going to change. And then the next week he did the exact same thing. What do I do? Obviously, that's something, again, that you kind of need to bring up, but let us go through what we need first and foremost, and then feel free to ask any questions afterwards, because then we've at least got the information. If we don't have the basis to start, you're asking us blind, and you're going to go, well, am I going to be successful in my divorce? I don't know. I don't even know what you're looking for. Let's figure out what you have. And so, again, you ask me these questions a lot of times, and I'm going, I don't have the answer. I need more information before I can give you that answer.
And I'll say one thing that really stands out about you is your empathy. And so when people do tell you their stories, you are empathetic and you do listen. It's not like, oh, this isn't important. You might steer somebody back on track if there's too many tangents that are irrelevant, but it's easy to tell you a story. So, I mean, that's good for people to know out there, because if you have a hard time talking to your attorney, they're probably not a good match for you. And if you don't feel like not everyone needs a good bedside manner, but I feel like it's important for them to, really listen to what's going on with your case. I mean, you must feel like a counselor half the time.
I do, but you know what? I mean, I get it. We've all had bad situations. We've all had bad things happen to us. I'm the person that you can talk to. And you know what? You also know that I'm not going to be able to tell anyone unless you tell me I can tell somebody. So I think that that is that level of confidentiality and that counseling going on. But more importantly, again, I know you need to get it off your chest. I need to hear it, because again, that will allow me to prepare and go, oh, this is the type of person we're dealing with. This is what I know is going to push their buttons. I can then gauge how I'm going to proceed with your case based off of what you tell me. So it's very important. And unfortunately, I wish none of my clients had to go through any of these bad things. But the reality is, them sharing it with me helps me with their case.
So, I mean, and then that's good to know. So some people are probably just waiting to tell their story, and they'll tell it to anyone that'll listen. So, I mean, I'm sure with your staff, a lot of them are trying to get their job done, and they're taking calls on your behalf, but they're also like kind of on hold there. I mean, do you have any, I guess, suggestions for how you should work with an attorney's staff members so that you don't bog them down with stuff that is, they're trying to be polite to you and you are just talking to the wrong person and wasting a lot of your time and theirs?
Well, you say that, but I'm going to say that that's probably the wrong perception. The reality is the staff probably has more information and should know more of that information than you want to give to the attorney. The attorney's going to listen, but the attorney's hourly rate is what, $350 versus the paralegal or staff that's $75 to $90. So again, from my perspective, it gets frustrating when it's, hey, I want to tell you a 25-minute story and I have one question. Okay, but it didn't relate to the 25-minute story. So why didn't you just ask me the question? So again, I'm happy to bill you for that, but do you really need me to? So a lot of times it's, hey, let me tell you the story. Oh, by the way, can you ask Nicole this? You know what? My staff actually loves that. And most staff should, because the reality is they're getting to the problem. They've got all the information. They've jotted it down. I have it in your file. If I need to call you about it, I will happily pick up the phone or send you an email and go, hey, oh my God, I can't believe this just happened to you. I need to know more. Or, hey, I'm going to tuck that away for the pretrial or some other hearing. But again, let's get to that question that you actually have, because also often I had a client call me up. I just need to talk to Nicole for a few minutes. Do you think she can make time for me? My staff goes, okay, well, why don't you ask me the question? Oh, and he answered it. It was a simple question that we deal with every day. It's a procedural question that he knows the answer to. So again, don't, dismiss the staff. They're trained by us. So we're going to tell them those things. No, they're not giving legal advice. But guess what? When I'm in trial and I have a full week and I've got about 2 hours of my day and I have to get through 200 people to call back, and you have one simple question, if my staff asks me that it's one simple question, I can then give them the simple answer. They can call you. You can get an answer much faster than waiting for me, because now you're in the queue.
And so here we are. I'm a layperson, and my concept, even though I've been through a process with you, it might be different than what the reality is and what you want. And so we are dispelling those myths here, which is fantastic. Let's talk about the documentation that you should give an attorney. And I'm sure, depending on the situation, a lot of the documents are the same. You have a list of what you need before you can talk about your financials with your ex, and you have a list of the things that you need for certain kinds of modifications. And so let's talk about what some of those common documents are.
And I think, the documents are going to be, again, very basic. We're going to be looking at your tax returns and W-2s and 1099s and pay stubs and your financial statements and your bank records and all that good stuff, your 401ks and retirement accounts, credit card statements. Great. But let's talk about the other documents as well, because those are the standard documents that I'm going to ask for anyone. Whatever your matter is, unless it's only child custody, I'm going to need that stuff. But it's the other stuff. So the child custody or the parenting schedule. Okay, well, what's the school records look like? What does the grades look like? What does the tardies look like? What is happening with the medical of your child? Let me see those records. Let me see how many times the child's been to the ER. Let me see what's going on with the Department of Family and Children's and Families. What's going on with them? Those are all things that, again, those are outside sources going to be specific to your particular case. But I want to get a big realm. I want to see the text messages between the two of you. I want to see the emails. I want to see, the phone logs. So all of these things are getting very voluminous. The basics are going to be the core, and those are easy to tell you about. And, basically when you sit down, I'm going to tell you that almost immediately. It's all the other things. And the other things I'm going to learn based off of our first conversation, where you tell me, oh, look, this is what happened. There's a restraining order. Okay, well, I need to see the restraining order. I need to see the affidavit. But it's not in effect, Nicole. Okay, but I still want to see it. I want to see the criminal record. Okay, well, let's go get that information. So anything that you're telling me that are those things that you're going, oh my God, I just needed to tell my attorney this. That's the stuff that I'm going to go, let's draw that in. I need to have that more about that information. I want to have that documentation. Oh, he basically sold all of his 401k money, and he bought stuff for his girlfriend. Okay, well, let's get those records. Again, what are you telling me, and what document is going to support that? So again, that's why it's so important to know exactly what is going on in your life and what brought you here.
Well, and that makes a lot of sense. You need to really look at the situation. Now, as far as communication goes, though, I hear you say it all the time in these interviews. We've been doing these interviews for well over a year, and it's always like, write things down. But what is your preferred method to get this information? Because a lot of it is sensitive, and some people just email all this stuff around, and I know that you guys have a much better method for that. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
I think it really depends on who your attorney is and their preference. So first, I'm going to start with what I do may not be what your attorney does, may not be what your office staff really wants you to do. So you really want to talk to each individual firm and kind of get to know what they like. The reality is, I get 2,000 emails a day. Do some of them fall through the cracks? Yep. I won't lie to you. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. Some of it's going to go to junk. Can't help that. Yes, I look in the junk, but not every day. So there's certain things that you want to be aware of. Obviously from my perspective is I'm going to say document, 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 document. Now, again, do you want to document and give it to me every day? I don't know. Sometimes you do. Depends on really how organized you are. I have clients that out of sight, out of mind, they will lose it. They will not have any memory of what happened 2 days ago, and they won't be able to articulate that. Well, then obviously you need to give that to me as soon as possible. You need to take the screenshots of the text messages, because you're going to go through all your text messages and they're going to start deleting some. So you're going to know that, and we're going to have those conversations specific to you again about what you need from your side to do. But again, the method of communication, if it's something that's urgent, don't send an email. I mean, I don't know any attorney that's going to go, oh, I just sit by my computer or my phone all day so I can wait for your email so I can reply. It's not going to happen, people. The reality is we're busy. We're a good law firm, we're busy. So no, we're not going to be at your beck and call on that email as much as I'd like to tell you we're going to. Sometimes we have downtime in court. Sometimes we have downtime on the weekends and we're just going, hey, let's just scroll through my phone. Let's see who I can help. But the reality is you need an emergency situation, you pick up the phone. If your attorney allows texting or something of that nature, fine. But pick up the phone and talk to somebody live so that they can give you the best advice possible. All too often people will go, well, I sent you an email and, it's 5 hours later and you're replying. Well, great, but your child's in the hospital and you didn't think you should call your ex because you needed my permission? What? So sometimes these things are really simple. It can be, again, answered with a simple question to my office. So some of it is common sense, but more importantly, like I said, pick up the phone and call us.
I mean, so that makes a lot of sense. And it is kind of funny how people don't always know what to do in an emergency situation. And, you do have to pick up the phone and call. I mean, there's a lot of sensitive situations within a divorce, and most of the time after a divorce is when the real fun starts, right? But it's definitely something you want to be careful of. But if there's an emergency and you're a parent and something happened to your kid, you have a right to go in and help them. I mean, I would hope that everybody would use the common sense. So, I mean, in some situations where you're contacting your attorney, and let's just say it's a normal situation, when can you expect a response back?
Again, I think it depends on your method of communication and what your understanding is with the firm. Like you said in the beginning of this, I'm interviewing you to see if I want you as a client, but you are also interviewing me. So those are things that we should be discussing. Those are the rules of engagement, if you will, between our relationship. What is it that you expect from me? When do you expect a response from me? How do you expect the response from me? The simple answer is, again, if you give me a phone call and you give me details, you're going to get a response, whether it's from me or my firm, within the same day or the next day. In an email, you're looking at probably 2-day turnaround. So again, depends. And obviously, I have other clients that, go, well, I haven't heard from you in a month. Well, that's because we were waiting on discovery on both your side and their side, and nothing's going on. I'm happy to spend your money again, but I don't really think that I need to. So if something's coming up, feel free to reach out to me. But again, you need to set that expectation immediately so the client knows what to expect and how often that they need to talk to you, and more importantly, when they can talk to you. I have all too often people that go, well, I didn't want to bother you because it was a holiday. Okay, well, you still send a message, even if I'm not responding to it, and unfortunately, usually I do. But I'm going to try to get out of that habit. But I think the reality is, again, you don't know if you've never actually had that conversation with your attorney. So have that conversation at that initial meeting.
Always the best advice. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Nicole. I mean, and these are the basics. And some people may say, why are we going over such a simple topic? But, honestly, like, some of these simple topics are the most important, because if you don't have the basics, then you can't expect to get good results when things get tougher in court. Am I right?
Absolutely. And I think that's the big thing is, again, it is basics. But if you don't know, or you're just sending paperwork and paperwork and paperwork to your attorney and then going, well, they're not getting the results. Well, if you're sending me this document and I'm scratching my head going, I even have a clue why you're sending it to me. Yes, we should pick up the phone and say that. Absolutely. And sometimes we do. And the answer is, well, I thought you'd need it. Okay, why? And then they go into the story and I'm like, okay, but I really don't. So again, you really want to understand exactly where that niche is, what documents you need, who you need to get that information from, and how you get it to your attorney, and have that communication. All too often I get letters in the mail and go, here's documents. And I go, great. Call the client and ask them why I'm getting that. It's not part of the discovery. It's not, I don't know where this is coming from. And a lot of times it's, oh, I just thought you needed it. Okay, great. I'll tuck it away. But a lot of times it's just things that you're doing busy work, you're spending time copying and mailing it to me, and I'm scratching my head going, I don't need this, guys. Give me the stuff that I actually do need. Because again, I want to work with you to come up with a cohesive plan, and more importantly, use that documentation to implement that plan.
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense. And you're right, though. I mean, a lot of times people don't understand what's going on or why, because they've never had to see an attorney before. I mean, divorce is very common. You don't even have to be married to have issues in family court. So, you might be dealing with a breakup, but you never got married and you have a kid, and it's overwhelming. There's a lot of emotions, and it's very complicated, especially if you've never had to go to court before and fight for things that are right for you and your family. So thank you so much, Nicole. Again, we appreciate any knowledge you give us, the basics, the advanced, all the interesting topics that are very juicy. Every week, it's always interesting. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. And thanks everyone for watching. We will see you again next week.